What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Today is the 8th of April, 2026. This is a video under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, one of our fourths, where what we do is allow the body to work. That's our slogan. Allowing the body to work, even through the airplane noise, okay? Blunt, bold, raw, and real, In The Image Clothing Company. We just do it as we do it, and sometimes there's surrounding sounds, okay? Dante's here, my current standard poodle, down here by my feet. Wow. The airplane noise right off the bat. Who you gonna listen to? Maybe not this guy, huh? Stick around and find out, okay? Seriously, I mean it. 40 seconds in, I could restart the video, right? Authenticity, yeah? It's hard to come by. It can be a challenge to just have, personally, right? So, there you go. All right. Human beings versus ruminants. This video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, the 8th of April, 2026. What is a ruminant? Well, we'll talk about it. Why do we allow the body to work under the name of a clothing company? Well, we're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We are a clothing company for the literal word of clothing, okay? Anything placed onto the body. We're talking about anything like glasses or jewelry, not just pants and tops and shoes and socks, undergarments, hats and gloves, and your traditional clothing items. Anything placed onto something else, the way that God clothes the fields with grass, and it's springtime here in Utah. Things are growing again, you know, from winter. Things were dead. The point is, anything placed onto something else is clothing it. For the human being, designed in the image of God, we're designed to work. The human body is designed to just do what it's supposed to do. There's a neutral, a natural, and a normal position and workings to the human body, okay? The Earth that we're on has a vertical pull to gravity. The Earth's surface is a horizontal surface, so this is a 90-degree angle, a right angle, a perpendicular angle. Even through the wind noise, it's still the same, okay? I love it, I really do. Here's the thing. The human body is just mechanics. It's a video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here. But it's just the case. Our bodies are just hinges, levers, and rotations, and it's just a physical, mechanical machine, this human being, placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth, okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. No opinion, no claim, no new information, nothing we could take credit for under In The Image Clothing Company when we discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth and how it works, you know? Yeah. This is the thing, clothing being the only thing physically placed on us, it has the highest potential out of anything in our lives to alter our bodies. So everything we do in our lives, we're doing it in and through our clothing, so we can address anything, and we do. Under In The Image Clothing Company, we talk about sleeping and sitting, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, eating. If I didn't already say that, and whatever else we could discuss that we're doing as a human being, we talk about everything because it's about the body. And everything your body is doing, it's just doing how the body can. But it's doing it in and through clothing, okay? So, with God designing the human being to work, the bones are only the shape and length that they are, and then the muscles connecting to the bones are only the shape and length that they are. The thing is, bones will never cease to be just what they are. Once you're just a human being, okay, a full-grown adult, let's say, for example, once you've stopped growing, yeah, your body's just what it is. Even while you're growing, your body's just what it is, but it's changing size and getting larger. The bones connect directly to each other through ligaments, and the ends of the bones are shaped very specifically, and they just have to mesh in line. Otherwise, we wear the bones out. And really, there's a thin layer of cushioning between these bones that's called cartilage. And if we wear that out, that's damaged, because now we've got the bone against the bone with no cushioning. But then if we wear it even farther, now we're just wearing bone into bone, the body can be damaged. So yeah, the muscles of the body, they connect to the bones through tendons, okay? Muscles only can do what they do, the human body only pulls. It's a video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, okay? because we pull muscles together to close a hinge joint, like the elbow. But on the back side of the hinge, we have opposing muscles pulling to extend the hinge. We don't push as human beings, we only pull. Muscle fibers have an electrical system sent from the brain. The signal to them goes from the brain and it says, hey, fire, and the muscles get closer together, okay? So anyway, there's a lot going on in the body that can't be altered by the only thing physically placed on it. So we've got things like these and any combination or anything of these, right? Yikes, altering the body. We're gonna get to it. Human beings versus ruminants. Why is this even a discussion? Well, this is about eating, by the way. And yes, we're a clothing company. We'll get to it, okay? Oversized clothing. Well, oversized clothing is not a choice. Is the video's title under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, because we've got joints of material of clothing that need to mesh with joints of body parts, okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. We can't be working around oversized clothing, or our bodies get into chronic patterning. Scar tissue builds up in the body, and bone spurs build up in the body when the body can't track just in line the way that it works, and then bones are being pulled on by the muscles connecting to them through tendons, and it actually changes the shape of the bones. Bone spurs, okay? Problems like this happen in the body when the body's not allowed to work. So our slogan under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, one of our fourths here, is allowing the body to work, okay? And we do that. We really do, yeah. So this is awesome. Oversized clothing, yeah, big point, okay? Imbalances of any kind in clothing. We're talking about things like this, the importance of keeping collars centered, right? And the importance of snug collars. We've got even opposing musculature from the center line of our body at our neck. Look at this. See the collars of my tops moving as I move the musculature of my jaw? Yeah, the human being has a center line. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. Whatever else you could say is in the center line of the body, but the jaw is stabilizing the entire body, naturally, okay? We've got musculature coming up to the crown of our head from our jaw, musculature coming down to the upper ribs from our jaw, musculature going from the jaw to the shoulder. There's a video under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here titled, The Jaw is the Shoulder, okay? And directly connected through musculature and tendons. Well, the musculature connects to the bones through the tendons, and that's from the jaw to the shoulder in this case. Imbalances of any kind in clothing, yeah, In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. One of our free modifications. If we don't have a centered collar, well, it can be coming from there being a seam in the collar of our tops, okay? In modern day, we've got robots stitching our clothing. Rotated seams, okay? In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. We give a lot of free modifications in clothing because our whole point under In the Image Clothing Company is allowing the body to work of the human being. We'll always have good clothing, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials, because the human body's natural. We're literally only what we've eaten. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, and so we eat the earth, and the earth literally becomes the human being, and then the human being dies and then decomposes back into the earth again. Okay, so the goal is natural on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. We're gonna get to it, okay? Human beings versus ruminants, but you need some context to know why you'd even listen to what I'm saying at all. Right? I would. I'd want some context. If someone's trying to tell me what's going on, why am I gonna listen to them, you know? Well, we know what we're talking about here under In the Image Clothing Company, and that's what I'm saying. Robots stitching our clothing nowadays in modern 2026. Today's the 8th of April, 2026. We've got rotated seams. I understand, by the way, my whole face just about is shaded by my hat. I get it, I get it. Why would you listen to me, right? Wow. Stick around and find out, okay? We have our own rotations. In our bodies, we've got internal rotation or external rotation from the neutral. There's always a neutral to the body, okay? And if our clothing is rotating, even through the wind noise, and our rotated clothing is placed onto our bodies won't have their own rotations because our clothing keeps our bodies stuck into a rotation. We live in a right-handed world. We've got a lot of people, 85%, give or take, of human beings that are right-handed, okay? Even through the wind noise. This is a crazy video. I love it so far. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we've got two sides to the body, okay? This center line of the body that we discussed, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull that doesn't change, we have to stay standing up. We've got even opposing musculature from the center line of the body, and then we also have one side of our body usually being our dominant side. So we get into a right-handed patterning as human beings because products that are designed to be used with one hand over two hands, right, are almost always going to be used for the right hand and designed for that to be the case. Clothing patterns, to a degree and in the ways they are right-handed. So now we've got clothing being shipped across the entire planet Earth in ways that never could have possibly been done in the past because we didn't have the technology to do that. And then we've got fairly universal clothing designs, but fairly universal clothing imbalances, really is the big point. Shipped across the whole planet Earth. And then we've got the right-handedness of all of this going on when there's two sides to our bodies, and we need to be able to use both sides of our bodies evenly because Earth's gravity pull is vertical and our bodies have a vertical center line, you know, so allowing the body to work. This is why we're a clothing company. This is why you listen to me, because I really know what I'm talking about. As the founder, my name is Evan Strong. Welcome to In the Image Clothing Company's main side. Today's the 8th of April, 2026, and we're going to get to it. Human beings versus ruminants, and why, okay? Because, you know, one of the things that makes us right-handed, actually, is eating and drinking with just one hand. If you're right-handed and you're always, or just about always, eating and drinking with just your right hand, being right-handed, well, this jaw, stabilizing the entire body, with videos under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here discussing this, titled some like this, okay? The importance of even jaw musculature, the importance of a strong jaw, the importance of the corners of the mouth. Well, let's talk about this, the importance of small utensils, okay? We've got a lot of videos discussing the human being's jaw. Eating and drinking with the left hand, okay? Just meaning non-dominant hand in this right-handed world. If we're always, or just about always, eating with our right hand, even if you're left-handed, if you're always or just about always eating with your left hand, there's two sides to the body, okay? We are grinding food between our teeth. When we're chewing, it's a natural thing for teeth to wear down. It's friction, right? You're just grinding things between your top and bottom teeth that we call food. And the teeth will wear down, but they'll wear into a pattern that's just on one side of the body if we're only using one side of the body to eat, because the whole body's involved. It takes the entire body to breathe. Really, okay? Stabilization happens through the entire body to some degree in every breath we take as a human being, and breath is the essence of human life, okay? So, this is the thing. We have the need to eat with both sides of our bodies, both hands, okay? There's a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side titled, "You Can't Be Ambidextrous in Imbalanced Clothing." The word ambidextrous means able to use both sides of the body. Okay, so you can use your right hand for things, but you can also use your left hand for things. This is the term, ambidextrous. Okay, so anyway, these things that get us into chronic patterning, you've got zippers, buttons, pockets, anything like this, right? Just imbalances of any kind in seams of clothing or just design. Things put onto clothing that's not necessary, but it's for the visual aspect, whatever it could possibly be, imbalances in clothing. Chronic patterning in the body, if the body's not just allowed to work. Gravity's got the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies, and our clothing is just the literal wording for anything physically placed on our bodies, okay? The third thing, you know, I generally say these three things because this gives us a good understanding of just anything that could really be altering the body, clothing-wise, the literal word of clothing. Ropes introduced to the body, shoelaces or drawstrings, things like this, ribbons around dresses, aprons with a rope, anything though, a scarf, tie something around your waist at all, around your neck, like an ascot, seriously, if you tie a knot in that, a bandana, Good boy, Dante. Whatever you want to tie around your body, be careful, okay? We're tying one side over the other in a knot, let's say. Now you're twisting the entire body. There's a video under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here titled Right-Handed Knots versus Left-Handed Knots. And essentially, we need right-handed knots on our left side and left-handed knots on our right side whenever we're tying things onto the body or around the body or holding things with a knot in them on one side or the other of the body of the human being. Okay. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And so this is what I'm saying. These are the reasons we're a clothing company, okay? It doesn't matter what brand you're wearing of clothing, really. I mean, we'll have great clothing under In The Image Clothing Company. No sales pitch necessarily. It's just that's the reason why we're going to have clothing products, is to allow the body to work, okay? Because you almost have to modify just about every single item of clothing from just about every single brand in modern 2026 because there's imbalances in them. And there's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it. It'll never change. It's been the same on every end of anyone because God designed us in his image. And in order for us to even word it as that, God had to first look like us. So the human body's always been the same. Every body has one, and every one has a body. There's a universal human design. You can be set apart from the universal human design. Amputation, deformity, birth defect, major surgery, or anything at all. This sets your body apart. But we all have to get as close as we can to the universal human designs functioning within our own individualistic situations because we're still breathing. There's still Earth's vertical gravity pull. We still have a spine that's in the center line of our bodies. You know, things like this just have to remain working if we're going to stay alive. Okay, it's truly, this is what we do under In The Image Clothing Company. This is what it means to allow the body to work, is looking at the body as it is, as an entirety. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. Okay, everything's there in the body with its own individual role to play. If something in the body's not working properly, other things are trying to do compensation, trying to make up for the role of the thing that's not playing its function or its role fully. But this can't happen because everything's got a different function in the body, okay? So, we're getting to it. Human beings versus ruminants. This is about eating, okay? And we'll discuss it, but you gotta know why you'd even care what I'm saying about eating under a clothing company. And not only that, we just give context, you know? Our goal, truly, under In The Image Clothing Company is to discuss things in such depth you couldn't possibly dispute what we're saying, because it doesn't matter. We're not trying to have you believe us, so we say very clearly, don't. Believe me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, don't believe me. Don't believe In The Image Clothing Company's information through any of our team members or any of our poodles even, okay? And I'll discuss what that could even mean if I do in this video, but poodles, right? Yeah, purebred standard poodles. The point is, truth is truth. Truth is apart from all of us. Another name for God is the truth, the same yesterday, today, and forever. God doesn't change. Anything that just is what it is always has been and always will be, okay? Things are just what they are, and that's it. You know, in the cases that that's the case. Truth is truth. What I'm saying is, yeah, our bodies can be very damaged, okay? And so we don't want this to happen because there's only one way they work. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying with eating is we can't really focus on eating unless we first understand how the body works. Okay, food is just fuel. This is the point with food, even through the wind noise. We talk a lot about hydration under In The Image Clothing Company. We talk a lot about eating food, okay, under In The Image Clothing Company, even through the darn wind noise. It does make me pretty upset at times. It really does. Because it's loud in the video, and it just happens in the times that it happens. Now we've got this constant flow of wind that's going on. So anyway, yeah, getting into chronic patterning through clothing, well, that damages our bodies. I don't know how loud the wind is currently, so we're just gonna do what we do with this, but The thing is, yeah, we've got to understand what hydration is. So we've got a video under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here titled What Hydration Is, okay? And we need to understand what it means to eat and do that properly, because food is just fuel, okay? Water is a lubricator and food is fuel for the body of the human being. And animals, you know, this is how it works. Over on In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, there you go. We do the same thing we do here for human beings on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, with allowing the body to work being our slogan, but letting dogs stay natural, okay? With information that applies to all dogs, we specialize in purebred standard size poodles, okay? Standard is the large size of the breed of the poodle. Yeah, everything we discuss for the human beings, because we've got collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, slip leads, anything you place onto a dog. It's the literal wording of clothing the dog's body with something, okay? So we can't alter these dogs. We've got wild animals that we domesticate, bring into our modern man-made world that we place onto God's natural earth. And then our dogs have a lot of things they're dealing with. Hidden dangers in life that can kill them or harm them. Cars, okay, man-made vehicles, man-made poisons, things like this. The dogs don't know how to navigate and deal with. And then, yeah, the things with keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars. Clothing approaches go for both human beings and dogs, or any animals, even pack mules or horses with a halter on them. You know, any animal across the earth that our information under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles would apply to, it would apply to. Okay, so there you go. The thing is, human beings versus ruminants. What's going on here? Well, what is a ruminant? Let's talk about this, because there's a reason that I'm correlating the two in this video. And there's the reason we talk about eating so much. This video is really humbling to me, because a lot of people in modern day will eat so much more food than they could ever possibly need in their bodies. Just like a lot of people in modern day are drinking way, way, way more water than they could ever possibly need in their bodies. Hydration, for example, it's the proper amount of water in the body. We rehydrate the body, and then the body gets dehydrated, and then we rehydrate it, and it gets dehydrated. On either end of overly hydrated or underhydrated, there's just a proper amount of hydration in the water. Hydration is just the labeling of water content held within something. And in this case, it's the human being. Yeah, a lot of people are very out of touch with their bodies, because this is what I mean. If our bodies, living in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth, are just very damaged, they're not working properly, then we will be in a state of constant compensation, like I'm saying, in our bodies. Our bodies just aren't working properly if they're not. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And what I'm saying is, we're very out of touch with our bodies in most all cases, just broad spread as human beings, because of just how the world is nowadays. And so we've got a lot of things like this: unnatural, artificial, and synthetic, which are synonyms with fake. Okay, we talked about natural, neutral, and normal, which are synonyms with how the body works, designed by God to work. The thing with unnatural is it can only come from natural. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, and so everything that's here has just been placed here by God before the human being got here, to be able to take the natural things, alter their state to unnatural, but then they'll just always decompose back to natural anyway. Okay, so the goal is natural on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company, and this is the reason why. These unnatural foods, well, this is one of the big reasons why, okay? They are going to damage our bodies. We can only get things or gain things from natural foods, just real food. Unnatural food is man-made, you know? It's not gonna help the body. It only damages the body, because we still have to process these things through our bodies, but our bodies don't take any nutrients from them. And so it takes energy to process these unnatural foods through the body, but then our bodies don't get replenished with energy from the unnatural foods to make up for the work the body has to do to just process this stuff through it. Okay. Oh, there's like a skid steer type vehicle thing over there. I didn't know what that sound was. It sounded like an airplane, but it wasn't quite an airplane. Anyway, here's the thing. when we eat food, there's a proper way to do it. You know, we don't have opinions we're trying to push or preach here under In the Image Clothing Company. That wouldn't do any of us any good, because we didn't design the body. We don't get to decide how it works. We can never actually train the human being to get it to do anything. That's impossible, truly. You can gain muscle size, you know, muscle mass or musculature strength by excessively working your body to get an excessive amount of muscle or strength. But then once you stop trying to get an excessive amount, the human body always goes back to its normal. We discuss the human body's only normal a lot under In the Image Clothing Company here, because we've got a normal heart rate, the amount the heart beats per minute, a normal respiratory rate, the amount the lungs breathe per minute, the amount of times these things happen. We've got a normal amount of fat content versus muscle mass in the body to have a healthy balance, a normal amount of hydration, water content in the body versus the amount of food we put into the body at a time. And all of these things, a normal body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The body just does what it does. The heart beats for itself. The lungs breathe for themselves. The eyes blink all the time that they do, and we're not doing it. All right? The body will heal itself when it gets cut. And this is God orchestrating everything, just doing what he does. And you don't have to be religious or believe in anything, but these things are just happening regardless. Okay? Yeah, we've got another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company podcast. And what we do is we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, which truly is just everything explained. Okay? The truth of all things is really what it is, but don't believe it. See what's really going on. We're all human beings, though. The same thing, placed onto the same earth and designed by the same God. Within this universal human design and every generation of human beings, we're all just dealing with the same problems in different ways, or different problems in the same ways. And life's just life. There's only one way the human body could ever work, for example. It's always been the same. Every body who has one and every one who has a body. Anyway, the point is, we're on episode 204 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast as of today's date. This is the 8th of April, 2026. Okay. But anyway, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, yeah, it's a beautiful place just to have deep insights on life be heard if you want to hear them, okay? Delivered by us under In the Image Clothing Company, okay, whoever that is at the time specifically. But here's the thing. Human beings versus ruminants, okay? What are we doing when we're eating? We're fueling the body. How does this happen? Well, there's a digestive system. A system of the body that has its function and its role and its reason for being there to take the food that we eat and put into the body and extract the nutrients from it, okay? Fully utilize the food to the highest degree the body can, because that's why we're eating, is to fuel the body. But this is the thing. If we eat food and it's got a certain amount of energy in it that the body could take from it, the body can only take the fullness of the energy from the food we eat if this food is introduced to our bodies properly, okay? A lot of people, like I was saying, eat just way too much food because they're not eating properly. You can eat the healthiest food on the planet Earth. The ravens know. The ravens know too. Yeah, you can eat the healthiest food you could ever possibly find, and if you're not introducing it to your body's not going to utilize it fully. No matter what it is, again, even just the healthiest things we could think of to eat, everything's just a foreign thing to the body. Something the body doesn't know anything about and has to be able to accept into it before it can even use it. We have to introduce food to the body properly. The food has to be acclimated to the body, and the body has to be able to accept the food to be able to then take the nutrients from it to fuel the body. So this happens in the mouth. You know, we discussed this. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, one of the earlier ones in the teens of numbers, titled Eating Truths. You know, and it was a little introduction of some of the things that are going on with food in modern day. And yeah, we talk about how you eat properly. Well, there's a real how-to. There's an actual reason, because there's only the way the digestive system of the human being works. It's a system that grew by itself, and it only does what it does. Digestion starts in the mouth. In the mouth of the human being, we have teeth, and our teeth can chew the food to grind it down and make it into small little pieces that are then easier to extract nutrients from because there's more surface area on something that's broken down smaller than something that's just a whole piece, okay? If I take a big rock and on the outside of it, there's only the amount of surface area that there is, the surface of the rock, I can only get to so much of that rock when it's a whole rock. But if I break this rock down into a lot of little pieces, I can get to so many more surfaces of the rock because it's broken up smaller. And why this is important is because we have saliva in the mouth. Saliva gets excreted or produced, you know, it comes out under our tongue in our mouth. And saliva actually has digestion to it. And so in the saliva, this liquid, this clear liquid in our mouth, it digests food. When food's in our mouth, before we even swallow the food down our throat. And so we need to chew our food very, very thoroughly to get it as small as we can to fully utilize the reason we're putting food in the body to begin with, to get the nutrients from it is the reason, to fuel the body. And then we need to be able to fully mix our saliva with all of the food that's in our mouth before we even swallow our food. That is one of the biggest points when it comes to eating. Chew thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly. Very, very small is how the food needs to be before we swallow it. And then have our saliva, which does digestion by itself. It breaks down the things in the food. It needs to be able to fully coat our food. And this takes minutes. I mean, when it comes to really eating properly, thoroughly, to actually benefit from why we're putting food into our bodies at all, it takes some time. Food's just become a social thing in modern day. You'll sit down with human beings and have conversation while you're eating. It's impossible, truly, to eat and speak at the same time. Yeah. And there's a lot that I could say with that on mechanically how that's the truth. There's no opinion on, you know, trying to have manners, like table manners. But for your body to be able to even utilize food for the reason we're eating, you cannot physically, mechanically speak and eat at the same time. It takes minutes to fully chew food small enough to where your body can get as much from it as you could, which is the reason we're eating food, is to get things from it. Okay. Yeah. So, what's a ruminant? It's an animal, okay? It's a type of animal. An animal that has a certain type of digestive system. Cows, okay? Goats. The wind noise. I couldn't make it up even if I wanted to. One of the big reasons we call it a gift, right? Doing so much under the gift of video here, under In The Image Clothing Company and all four sides where we do. It's just another date marks documentation. In this case, it's the 8th of April, 2026. Okay. In The Image Clothing Company's main side, human beings versus ruminants. Well, cows, goats, caribou, giraffe, all right? Animals like this, these are animals that have multiple chambers in their stomach. And so the way that these animals eat is different than how we do as human beings. That's why this video is here. That's why I'm discussing this, because it makes a big difference for how they can get the nutrients from food. These animals are animals that eat things just on the ground, plants, right? Herbivores. Herbivores? There you go, right? I'm vegetarian, personally, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, as of today's date, the 8th of April, 2026. But these animals, they eat basically just grass, hay, straw type stuff that we don't really benefit quite the same from as a human being. And why is this? Well, we could talk about all the reasons and all the actual, you know, molecular makeup of the food and what's actually in it and how it benefits each individual body of flesh and bone and blood, from animal to animal, if you will, species to species. But a big point is that these animals have multiple chambers to their stomachs, animals called ruminants. And what happens is something like a cow, a goat, a caribou, a giraffe, things like this, ruminants. Yeah. Horses, maybe, if, I'm not trying to claim that I know exactly which animals are ruminants, but I do know for sure cows are and goats are, right? So, caribou, yeah. The point is, there's a lot of animals across the earth like this because they're grazing animals, right? Animals that eat just things off the ground, they're just grazing across the ground, just the literal wording, right? Eating the grass, okay? We feed them hay or straw. When we domesticate these animals, like our cows, that we put into man-made enclosures, or reindeer, they are domesticated wild caribou, right? But the same animal, essentially, just like how our dogs are domesticated wild dogs, but the same animal, essentially, canines. Anyway, the point is, I really know what I'm saying here. It's just that it's hard to get through a lot of these videos a lot of the time because of what you've been able to experience in this one, how just, yeah, it is what it is, okay? Because of the magnitude of it is why it is what it is. It's a permanent documentation of truth. This is a lot of what's going on with our digestive systems as human beings in modern day. And there's a lot more to it too, affecting the entire body through how we're eating unnaturally. There's only one way the human bodies are really designed and set up to eat, okay? By God, we didn't design the body. So here's the thing with the ruminants. They will chew food. They'll swallow the food they've chewed, and then they'll bring the food back up from their stomach into their mouth, chew the food again, and then swallow it again. And so this is called chewing their cud, okay? The cud of these animals, called ruminants, is the food that's already been in their stomach once, coming back up into their mouth again. And then they chew it and swallow it. And these animals, ruminants, they can spend a big portion of every day doing this, chewing their cud. Basically throwing their food up into their mouth, regurgitating their food into their mouth from their stomach and then swallowing it again. And this process of this back and forth, the reason they're doing this is because each time they bring the food from their stomach back up into their mouth, they're chewing it even more thoroughly than they did the first time they swallowed it. And they're also adding more saliva to it, so that the saliva mixed with the smaller pieces that they're chewing it into with their teeth can break the food down more and more and more and more each time. This is why these animals have these multiple compartments to their stomach. This is why they do this up and down process from the stomach to the mouth and back to the stomach with their food that we call chewing their cud. Because they can take food that seems very simple, these grasses, hay, straw, just, alfalfa, if you will. I don't know exactly what, like people who own these animals domesticated or feeding them all the time, but I mean, just wild grass in the fields. These animals can eat, the caribou, they eat this stuff called lichen. It's just, greenery growing out of the ground. Even in really cold climates, this stuff grows underneath the snow. The point is, there's not all that much to this stuff. It's just greenery. It's just grass, basically. But the animals that are ruminants, they can get all the nutrients that they need from this kind of food because they fully break it down through this process of rumination, okay? Chewing their cud, this up and down from the stomach to the mouth, back to the stomach, chewing the food more thoroughly, adding saliva to it, swallowing it, throwing it back up, essentially, okay, regurgitating it back to their mouth, chewing it even more thoroughly, adding even more saliva to it, and then swallowing it again. This process really allows the animals that we call ruminants to get the most nutrients out of the food that they're eating that they can, okay? Now, why this is important, even through the sound of the truck, is as human beings, like I'm saying, we've got a lot of human beings in modern day, and I'm not calling other human beings out as if I'm better. Some of us are much more intentional with certain things than other people, okay? But this is a phrase we say under In the Image Clothing Company a lot. We don't know what we don't know, and we can't be held accountable for what we don't know. But once you know things, you've got to do what you can to change what you're doing if it's going to change your life, okay? I used to speak while I ate, for example, me, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. I'll be doing this my entire lifetime, but until I was about 24, I was making just about all the same mistakes, if you will, or doing all the same things, just about all the same things that we discussed not doing under In The Image Clothing Company to allow the body to work. And I'm the founder, personally, you know, I was doing the same things before I knew. Just a couple years ago, give or take from today's date, the 8th of April, 2026. And so the thing is, we just have to have understanding of what's going on in life, because it's become such a common thing for eating to be a social activity. And all eating is to fuel the body. That's the only reason we put food into the body, is to fuel the body so it can just continue to function as this mechanical machine that it is, okay? So we've got to eat very slow and very thorough. We eat food, and there's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Natural Bite Size. The natural bite size is just the amount of food you can fit in your mouth at a time that fits within the bed of your teeth, all right? I'm going to talk about this, but I'm also probably going to wait out the airplane noise for just a little bit. Depending on where it's at. I could film these videos anywhere. I get it. It is what it is for the reasons that it is, too. So, there you go. Here's the thing. Even through the airplane noise, it's probably a helicopter, actually. The natural bite size, right? Even through the wind noise, too. It's crazy. We put the amount of food in our bodies that can fit in their mouth at a time. You look at squirrels or chipmunks or chinchillas, you know, a lot of rodents like this. Certain animals, though, whatever species it could be, there's certain animals that'll shove food between their teeth and their cheeks. We don't do that as human beings. That's not how the body's designed to do that, is the point. When we eat food, the natural bite size is just the amount of food that can fit within our teeth where our tongue sits. Okay, at a time. If you put food between your teeth and your cheeks, you're just gonna have puffy cheeks. As in literally, permanently, as long as you keep doing this, you know. Through that amount of time that you're doing it, it's just going to stretch out the musculature and the skin of your cheeks of your face, truly. You know, then you're just not going to have a slender face, no matter what else you try to do to have a slender face within your own individual face structure. Do you see what I mean? That's the point of me saying it, so you can see what I mean. Because, yeah, also, though, the jaw just stabilizing the entire body, and, you know, with the importance of even jaw musculature being a focus and a video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, the jaw just needs to go up and down. You know, if you've got so much food in your mouth that it's going in your cheeks, you're pushing your jaw to the side, and the jaw is stabilizing the entire body. It's directly connected to your shoulders. You know, then you're eating with just one hand, let's say, and now your body's imbalanced off to just the side that you're eating with. And Earth has a vertical gravity pull with the center line of the human being. So, yeah, okay, truth is truth. What I'm saying is a lot of good stuff, so listen if you want. It'll change your life. It's nothing to do with me, but this is the truth of God. We have to eat slowly, thoroughly, the natural bite size, just a small amount of food relatively, you know, maybe compared to what you were eating, but just the amount of food that can fit within the bed of the teeth where the tongue sits, you know, inside the teeth at a time. That's how we eat as human beings. We thoroughly chew our food, very small. Allow our saliva to fully mix with our food, because then we can swallow. You pretty much can't even possibly physically swallow things if you can't produce saliva. Okay? You'd have to have some other kind of liquid to help wash it down your throat, or else it would literally get stuck in your esophagus, the tube of your throat that sends food from your opening of your mouth down into your abdomen's digestive system. Okay? The intestines, the stomach, you know, passing through the body and out the rectum. There's only one way this happens. It's a system designed by God. It grew for itself. It grew for us. There's only one way the body eats. There's no opinion to it. And this is what I mean, is if you're not introducing food to your body properly, it's just not going to get the fullness of the nutrients that it could from the food you're eating, and then you're just eating way too much food because your body's only taking a little bit of the amount of nutrients it could from each food item that you're eating if you're not eating it properly. So ruminants, they know this. Well, God knows this. He designed the ruminants four-chamber stomach. Okay. That's why the ruminants do this. The animals called ruminants that is in this video's title, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, on the 8th of April, 2026. Okay, human beings versus ruminants. Well, yeah, the ruminants, animals like cows, caribou, goats, animals like this, giraffe, you know, whatever else it is, though, any part of the earth that you've got an animal that has a similar type of digestive system, this is what's happening. They are just breaking down the food more and more and more each time. They swallow it to their stomach, throw it back up, regurgitate it back into their mouth, chew it again, add more saliva to it, swallow it again, and this process, which we call chewing their cud, goes on and on and on. So these animals can get the fullness of the nutrients from their food. This is why human beings are different than ruminants. Not just the biological, actual anatomy, functionality of the digestive system with the four-chambered stomach of the ruminants versus just how the human being's digestive system works. But, you know, just looking at it as the amount of time and the amount of intentionality that the animals called ruminants versus the human beings take to digest food. Us as human beings, if we're not intentional when we eat, you're wasting so much food. You're wasting whatever resource, maybe money, you know, that you'd use to get food. Your resource might have been your own physical energy. Maybe you're growing your own food and then eating it. The reason you're eating it all is to fuel your body. There's only one way that you can do all that you can to fuel your body the most fully and properly, no matter what it is you're eating. It's the way we eat, not only what we eat, okay? The goal is natural. If you're looking at any kind of man-made food, trying to put it into a God-made body, unnatural, artificial, and synthetic, things like this in the labeling of our food, colorings, flavors, preservatives, additives of any kind, I mean anything at all like this in food that's unnatural, this will damage your body regardless of how you possibly try to introduce it to your body. Okay, that's the truth. It's fake. These words are synonyms with fake, and it's in the literal labeling of our food. Synthetic, artificial, unnatural, whatever other word like this, yeah. Okay, it'll damage the body regardless of how you try to possibly properly introduce it to the body. You can lessen the effect it'll have on your body by doing it properly, but it's still just fake, okay? So it's just kind of unfortunate, but it's also just how the world is. All right. So anyway, yeah, when you're eating food, don't let me tell you what to do. It doesn't matter what I say unless it's aligning with the truth of God. Don't believe me, ever, at all. Even my children or my wife, you know what I mean? Just to be clear, I mean it. Don't believe me. Truth is truth, though. What's the truth in life? Well, it's the same for everybody who has one. Because there's a universal human design, and we're designed by someone who's not us because the body grows for itself. There's only one way it eats, okay? Actually, truly, properly. Here's the thing. Don't speak while you eat. We've got to close the mouth. The tongue comes up, okay? This lower jawbone, the mandible, it is from right in front of the ears here. It comes down and forward and becomes the chin. It's where the lower teeth are connected into. It's just a hinge for us to chew, and it's also stabilizing the whole body, connected to where it is, like I was saying earlier, to the shoulders, to the head, to the ribs. Okay? Wow. The jaw of the human being, okay? Yeah, there's only one way the jaw can just properly work. So when we're eating food, we need to fully close our mouth. Wow. We need to chew all the way. You know, the importance of a strong jaw. I mentioned some of this in that video under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here. But anyway, yeah. If you're speaking while you're eating, you're not going to be chewing all the way. And also, you're not going to keep food within the bed of your teeth where your tongue is, because you have to speak with your tongue, but you also have to eat with your tongue. How do you swallow? Your tongue. It shovels food back and down your throat. The jaw of the human being plays at least these roles in the entire body: eating, speaking, stabilization of the entire body, and breathing. These are things the jaw of the human being does, okay? And so two of those things contradict each other. Can't happen at the same time. Okay, you can't eat and speak at the same time. It's not going to happen. Not actually. You're partially doing one while you're partially doing the other one. And you know, you can't even really understand what people are saying anyway. They've got food in their mouth. They're all you know, speaking through their food. That doesn't work. You know, there's only one way the human being speaks. There's a video under In the Image Clothing Company's main site titled How Clothing Affects Speaking. There's only one way the human being eats, you know, as well. And we need to keep our mouth closed while we eat, okay? So anyway, what I'm saying is we need to look at food as what it is. It's just fuel for the body. I mean, you can eat some things that people could consider unhealthy, but if they're natural things, you know, like sugar, for example. No, sugar's natural. Truly, really, actually. Yes, you know, natural sugar. I mean, there's artificial fake sugars, but natural sugar, it's fine for the body. The body uses different food to fuel the body in different ways, you know, just different types of energy or amounts of energy comes from different food depending on what it is. But things like this, you know, sugar, carbohydrates that people tend to try to stay away from all the time. Well, the saliva breaks down carbohydrates and fats, you know. And if you're just eating too fast, you're not even allowing the saliva that's only within your mouth before you ever swallow your food to fully mix with your food, to digest it. The saliva then follows the food through the whole body. It's not just like the saliva's not only breaking down food for the amount of time it's in the mouth. When we mix the saliva in our mouth with our food, the saliva travels with our food through the rest of our whole bodies, continually digesting the food as it goes. This is how the body works. There's only one way this works. This is why the ruminants, these animals, and I know I'm like yelling about it. I just yell about stuff where I do, all right? I'm very passionate about truth because that's all that exists. God is his name. Well, his name is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is God is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. When the ruminants, these animals that throw their food up from their stomach back to their mouth, chew it again and then swallow it again, and this process happens called chewing their cud. Why they're doing this is not only to chew the food more thoroughly, but to add more saliva to the food because of the big role saliva plays in digesting food. The thing is, if you're trying to stay away from things like sugary foods or carbohydrates, you know, sugar is a form of carbohydrate, you know, but foods that people generally try to stay away from very commonly in modern 2020, any time period ever. It doesn't matter that it's 2026 necessarily, because food's food no matter what time period. That's a good point. The human being is a human being no matter what time period. That's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't matter what time period for this, okay? Well, and that's the case for any information that we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company. If we're doing it properly, just aligning what we're saying with the truth of God. God is eternal, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Anything that is true always will be. Anything that ever was true still is. And God, right, is called the truth. It's another name for God. So that's what I'm saying is, yeah, this doesn't matter what's going on in any one situation ever. You don't need to stay away from certain foods. If they're natural foods, you just need to understand what they are doing for the body. And really, even more than that, you just need to know how to eat properly. That's the point. If we don't know that saliva is playing a huge role in digesting our food, then maybe you're just not going to eat slow enough, because you might not know that it even matters to have food in your mouth for that long. A lot of people here to chew their food thoroughly, but they don't really know why. Maybe people think that it's just so that you can eat slower to enjoy your food better or something, you know. No, you got to chew that food, brother. You got to chew your food very, very, very thoroughly. You know, I mean, if we could get our food blended up in a blender to where it's just like a smoothie. You know, you hear people talk about juicing, you know, and they're just drinking only juices, you know, and this juice could really be any kind of food that you could blend up into just a very liquidy state and drink it. Well, you could do that always with every food you ever eat, and that's how your body could actually utilize it the best. That's the same thing as just chewing your food so thoroughly that it's doing the same thing the blender is doing by blending your food up into very, very small pieces to the point that it's almost just liquid, right? That's proper. That's how we should eat. That's what the ruminants are doing. These animals, as they keep taking the food from their stomach back to their mouth, chewing it, chewing it, chewing it, adding more saliva and swallowing it again, chewing their cud. They're doing basically the same thing as we would be doing as human beings if we juiced all of our food, blended all of our food up, or ground all of our food up before we even put it into our mouth. But the difference is, you still have to, as a human being, allow whatever it is, food or liquid, even plain water. Talk about plain water and how there's nothing in it besides hydrogen and oxygen. The body of the human being can't take anything from water. Well, nothing can. Water is just hydrogen and oxygen. If you take one thing away from it, the water is not water anymore. The body of the human being just uses water for functioning as a lubricator. It doesn't take anything from water. It's impossible to. You can't take something from water. It'll cease to be water. Okay. With food, you can take nutrients from it, and food's made up of a bunch of different kind of nutrients. And so, you know, it is what it is. But water is yeah, different. What I'm saying is truth is truth. And I don't get to decide, so don't believe me. But this is really how this is. Find the real truth of it. Don't believe me just because I'm saying that. But this is what's going on really. It doesn't matter what you put into your mouth. Your saliva needs to be fully mixed with it, okay? If it's just liquid, let it sit in your mouth for a while. The saliva fully mixes with it, and then you swallow it, okay? The saliva will follow the food or liquid through your whole body and doing the digestion that it does the whole way down, the digestive tract of the human being, okay? Saliva is a neutralizer too, you know, anything that could potentially be harmful for inside of your body. Before the food actually gets more inside of your body than just inside your mouth, the saliva will neutralize this food, you know, make it more safe, if you will, for the body. This is what I mean by food's a foreign thing until we introduce it to the body and the body has a chance to accept it by getting acclimated to it, or the body might reject the food. And then you've just got food passing through your body and your body's not actually able to utilize it very much at all, or maybe just about at all, because your body might look at it as just a foreign thing the whole time it's passing through your body, even if there's nutrients there that the body could take from it. The point is, we just have to introduce food to the body properly. Saliva, okay, is that neutralizer. And that's the thing with these ruminants, is they keep reintroducing more and more saliva to their food, okay? So we've discussed this, where we have under In The Image Clothing Company, but I have never made a video under In The Image Clothing Company until today's date, the 8th of April, 2026. As the founder, my name is Evan Strong. I'll be doing this my entire lifetime, okay? But discussing ruminants at all, I've never discussed this before today's date under In The Image Clothing Company, not like this at least, right? So this is something beautiful to see because there's no opinion to it. To not speaking while you eat, to chewing your food thoroughly, to taking smaller bites, and to fully mixing your saliva with your food before you swallow. A lot of reason why we can't get the fullness of nutrients out of the same type of food that these animals called ruminants can. It's partially what I was saying earlier, how, well, I was saying this earlier, part of it is this has to be seen. Part of it is, you know, the digestive systems just work differently. In an animal that just has a literally different functioning and shaped and structured digestive system versus a human being, that's a big point. But also, think about something like corn, you know, corn on the cob. If you eat corn, a lot of the times you'll be able to look at your bowel movement, your actual feces after you eat the corn, you know, a day or two after, 3 days, however long it takes for the corn to pass through your body. And you can still see full kernels, those, you know, actual little individual pieces that make up the whole corn cob. You can still see full or just about full kernels of corn in your bowel movement, in your feces. That's one of those foods that is the most commonly able to just process through the whole body and barely be altered at all, okay? Or things like oats too. And this is what I'm saying. Ruminants, these animals, they eat things like this: oats, corn, wheat. Well, if and where they do. But what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to say exactly which foods they do or don't eat out of just maybe ignorance on my part on exactly what is being fed to which animals or what animals are naturally eating what foods. But yeah, things like this, the things that cows eat and goats eat and livestock like this, the hay and the straw and just the wild grass in the fields. These are things that us as human beings, if we eat, they might come out of our bowel movement, our feces, looking just about the exact same as when we put it into our mouth. This is because we don't chew our cud. Ruminants throw the food up, regurgitate the food from their stomach back to their mouth, and do this as many times as they do it, okay, to break the food down again and again and again and again. Us as human beings, we don't do that quite the same at all. Our digestive systems literally biologically are just set up differently, Yeah, they're structured differently. The actual anatomy, the makeup of how the body works is different. That's why this video is here, to explain this, to understand what food really is, to understand how to eat properly, and to understand what it really means to be a human being. And all this really means is understanding how to do what our slogan here is under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, allowing the body to work. And yeah, we're a clothing company, and there's a lot of reasons that clothing is directly playing into eating, but also, really, we're only a clothing company to allow the body to work. So we discuss everything, but while you're eating, what are you wearing? Eating is just a physical position. Okay, here's a good point. We discussed this, but I'm not going to touch on this all that much in this video, but just to give some context, because this is important to know. Yeah, where clothing sits on the body, we just discussed very clearly. Like I'm saying, gravity's got the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. Our jaw has to close. Things like oversized tops pull down on our shoulders, and you won't even be able to close your jaw all the way if your shoulders are pulled down. You can't close your jaw all the way, okay? You can't. Literally, mechanically. I'm not telling you what you can and can't do like I'm in charge of you. I'm telling you physics. Your jaw is connected to your shoulder directly. And if your shoulder gets pulled down by an oversized top, for example, it's pulling your jaw open, and your jaw chews food by closing, and this is coming upward, opposing Earth's vertical gravity pull down on us, right? So anyway, the point with all of this is there are a lot of things in clothing that really play into eating, but we've got certain videos discussing that specifically under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here before today's date, which is the 8th of April, 2026. But, we'll discuss it more if and where we do, just going forth under In The Image Clothing Company. Like I'm saying, I'll be doing this my entire lifetime. Dante and I, my current standard poodle here in this video, and me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Dante's the rescue, by the way, from the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter, just the first of many poodles under In The Image Clothing Company poodles. We'll move down to St. George, Utah, this month, April 2026, and that's where we'll be based for life as In The Image Clothing Company, because we do a lot in nature, living up Utah for the sake of the beautiful diversity to the nature of the state. And St. George, Utah, it's different than most of the rest of Utah. It's the very top end of the Mojave Desert, so it's beautiful. It's different than the rest of Utah. Really, it is. It's sandstone, red rock. It's hot in the summer, and it stays relatively warm in the winter, warmer than pretty well the rest of the state of Utah in the winter, So we'll have our building down there, our team. We'll breed purebred standard poodles to advocate for the health and importance of purebred dogs, and all the things we do down there for the environment and with beautiful companies and organizations doing good things. Our team will do some awesome things. We'll work with some great people, Human being clothing and dog products we'll always have, just to allow the bodies to work. Do everything clothing, do everything dog products. We'll breed our poodles to be do everything dogs. Dante here, even though he's a rescue and we didn't breed to him, he's a do everything dog. He's able to just go everywhere with me, which is what we need as In The Image Clothing Company with our dogs. That's what a lot of people are looking for with dogs, is dogs that don't hold you back from just living the life you're going to live, whether you have a dog or not, But there's a lot we discuss with dogs. I mean, that's a huge part of what and who we are under In The Image Clothing Company, is that fourth of us, In The Image Clothing Company poodles. All right, applying to all dogs with their information, but we're just doing what we're doing here. And so this is the thing. We're not ruminants as human beings. Not only are we not ruminants, and our digestive system doesn't very, very thoroughly break down food through this process of regurgitation and re-swallowing, chewing and chewing, adding more saliva, swallowing again, and then, you know, repeating the process. This doesn't happen. Our bodies mechanically don't do this, you know, biologically don't do this. The anatomy of the way the human being is designed is not this, the way that the ruminants are. But what we are as human beings is a being that has the choice to intellectually decide to slow down when we eat, to intellectually decide to not speak while we eat, to intellectually decide the position our bodies are mechanically sitting or standing in while we eat, to just eat centered, so that we can then travel through the rest of our life, not having effects coming from how we ate, changing how we stand and sleep and breathe and walk and just live our daily lives. If we wear our teeth down imbalanced through eating imbalanced, then you're not going to be able to stand centered on Earth's vertical gravity pull through the rest of your life. For example, you're not going to be able to sleep well because you probably won't be able to seal your mouth very well. The mouth seals by the tongue, not the lips. You can have your mouth open and entirely seal your throat. The tongue suctions to the roof of the mouth. We've got videos under In the Image Clothing Company here discussing eating in different ways and thoroughly, you know, than this video was. Different ways of discussing it, because things that are important to know, because we all eat, you know. We've got videos discussing the tongue. We've got a lot more videos discussing the jaw than the ones that I referenced in this video under In the Image Clothing Company's main site. You know, there's a lot going on, and I'm not going to talk about where clothing sits in this video. I'm not holding anything back. Our videos are posted publicly, date marked, under the gift of video here. That's how we do a lot of what we do, and always on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. But clothing, you know, every body who has one, just meaning every human being, man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, you're just a human being. Our clothing just has to sit on our bodies properly. You'll never possibly train your body to do anything besides the shape and length of the bones and the shape and length of the muscles connecting to those bones to stabilize and move the body, okay? The muscles come before the bones that connect to them. The body's about a position. You can never even address the musculature unless you address the bones they're connecting to. The bones are the first thing. Muscles are always secondary. And the clothing is the only thing physically placed on us. It's just the literal word of clothing, whatever it is, your clothing. In this case, it's just the human being under In the Image Clothing Company. There's only one way clothing can fit the body. In the location, the seams and the ropes, like shoelaces or drawstrings, you know, sit on the body with Earth's gravity and allowing the hinges, levers, and rotations of our body to continue to operate. There's only one way the human body could ever work. No opinion to it. We get into it in such depth, you couldn't possibly dispute what we're saying, because it's not our choice on how the human body works. It's always been the exact same, and it always will. When it comes to eating, just as when it comes to hydration, and when it comes to sleeping, when it comes to breathing, all these things, standing and sitting, if I didn't already say those, and if I did, maybe they're even more important because I said them twice. Do you see what I mean? What I'm saying is all of these things are important, because what it means to be a human being is anything you ever do. If you're alive, you're alive. If you're dead, you're dead. You're only alive because your body's fueled by food. There's only one way the body can actually eat properly, all opinions aside, just to fully utilize the nutrients in the food we put into the human being to fuel it. There's only one way the body can stay hydrated. Hydration is just a literal word, whether it's in the soil or the body of an animal or the body of a plant, if you call it a body of a plant, or the body of the human being. The amount of water content able to be held within something is just the wording of hydration. How to sleep. There's only one way the body can really do this properly. The point is, this is what we do under In the Image Clothing Company. You don't have to believe us whatsoever, because it doesn't matter if you do or not. Spoken or unspoken, truth is still truth, and we're just trying to get down to truth under In the Image Clothing Company. So, human beings versus ruminants, our bodies work differently when it comes to the digestive system specifically, okay? So, there you go. We'll discuss more on how to eat properly. You know, we've got things like dehydrated foods. So we don't want to be introducing more water to the body than we would need. The water will dilute the natural, you know, juices of the body, the digestive juices, you know, the stomach acids or the saliva. These things won't work as well if there's too much water in the body. Again, overly hydrated, that's a problem. Just as much as underhydrated could be a problem. Hydration is just the in-between proper amount of water in the body. And that's just only what it is. And how that happens is only how it happens. And we discuss it clearly under In the Image Clothing Company. Don't believe us. But here's the thing with things in modern day that are just different. Dehydrated foods, you know, a lot of food is just so unnaturally dry because we put it through a process as human beings called dehydration. We take the natural water content out of food because then it can last longer without spoiling or going bad, you know, rotting, molding. And that can be beneficial to have the longevity of food lasting, you know. So we have access to food in times when we wouldn't otherwise have access to food that was just fresh, that only lasts maybe a few days. We can have food last for literally years or decades, you know, up to like 100 years nowadays, no joke. We can have food lasting without going bad in a way that's going to damage our bodies from it being, you know, spoiled, rotten, and moldy, these type of things. But this isn't always the best thing. It can come with a lot of damage to the body because there's just natural water content in food. And we just discussed this very clearly as well, where we do under In the Image Clothing Company. But these are a lot of the reasons why people won't chew thoroughly, because it's just different. Eating food that's been processed by a human being through whatever it is, any kind of way of preserving the food, one of these ways is dehydrating food. It's just so different than any natural food could ever possibly be, because it's gone through an unnatural man-made process. So there's so much going on that does play into causing people to not chew their food thoroughly. A lot of times food is excessively crunchy or hard, and it could break your teeth easier than just natural food when it's gone through man-made processing. So this doesn't allow us to fully chew all the way closed with our teeth. You know, there's points like this. So this is what I mean. We really know what we're saying here under In the Image Clothing Company, truly. Don't believe us, but we really do, because we discuss it thoroughly. I mean, you couldn't, I mean, just, we do. We know what we're doing. That's why I'm here as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, is because I know how the body works in the ways that I discuss how it does. I know what I'm talking about, or I wouldn't be saying these things. And our team will be awesome as well. You know, God-fearing, nature-loving, poodle-loving people, you know. And they'll be great too, to be able to deliver information and yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing with dehydrated food. Yeah, maybe you're not chewing fully because you might break a tooth. If you've got food that's been processed in a way that it's excessively unnaturally hard, then you're gonna eat quicker because you're just trying to get the food out of your mouth. It's just, you know, hard to do something with in your mouth, and so it's like, well, I'm supposed to be eating this, I guess I'll just swallow it. And then we're not chewing our food thoroughly. We're especially not doing what the ruminants are doing, and chewing and then rechewing and rechewing our food. You know, there's a lot that goes into this, as we discuss with all the things that we discuss, that we could say that with, and we do where we do under In the Image Clothing Company. There's a lot to this. You know, we don't just speak on things quickly, briefly, and we're done. We're just trying to deepen our understandings of just life as it is, just the truth of what life is, because it's only what it is. We're just one of the many human beings who live here. It's only what it is. Truth is truth. Life is just life. There's only one way the body could ever work. We didn't design it. So anyway, there's a lot to this. Just to be very clear, there's more I could say in this video on this topic, but we'll just touch on it and talk about it where we do, if we do, as time progresses. I've given enough information in this video though for this understanding to be explained, for the reason why I discussed it under what the video's title is: Human Beings versus Ruminants when it comes to eating food, digesting food. Okay, so In the Image Clothing Company music, it's another one of our fourths. A lot of what we do is show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter things like the neutral wrist, which is straight out the outside of the forearm, down and out that pinky finger. And we do rhythm and poetry, spoken word, lyricism, singing, guitar playing, music making, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages on In the Image Clothing Company music. All right, we'll be in St. George, Utah, We'll do things like in-person events with people, you know. Come for the events, and the reason we're doing them, not to see In The Image Clothing Company's team clean the creek or rid the rubbish, specific subcategories of what we call poodle parade events. You know, things like this where we'll actually do things for the environment, picking up trash for the planet Earth, but poodle parade events are where you can bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size, and we'll get people into nature and dogs into nature. Again, come for the reason we're doing the events. We'll have very purposeful reasons for doing them, and it'll be clear on what we're doing there. You know, educational things, but also just for the experience, to experience the beautiful nature that God has given us with this earth. Seriously, you know, I've talked about it like this many times before under In The Image Clothing Company, documented and date marked under the gift of video before today's date. Okay, a lot of people live in city environments, for example, and they don't even know how to get into nature. Maybe they want to, but they're kind of afraid to, and they don't really have a reason, but they'd like to just see the earth more than they just generally do. I mean, there's a lot of situations like this from individual to individual across the earth. A lot of people are experiencing a completely different approach to the same life, if you can see how that is. And so, you know, getting people into nature, and our dogs as well, just through whatever events we do under any four sides of In The Image Clothing Company, but then, you know, poodle parade events specifically with the dogs and the human beings. These are the reasons, you know, is to really just get us rooted, grounded back to the earth where our bodies are literally pulled from. Okay, pulled from the clay, as it says in the Holy Bible, as we discussed earlier in this video. And St. George, Utah, where we'll be based for life from this month 4th, April 2026, once Dante and I, my current standard poodle, and me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, moved down there. It's a beautifully grounding place. It's just so rock-filled, you know. I mean, it's like bedrock on the surface, okay? Normally you've got dirt, and then you go down a ways and you just got rock. That's how the planet is in a lot of places, okay, the planet Earth. But in St. George, Utah, I mean, you're just right on the ground. It's just such a solid, literally physically grounding place, as in you're standing on the ground, like on just solid rock. It's a place that just kind of makes you feel good. Okay, it really is. It's so beautiful down there. It's crazy because it's a true desert, you know. St. George, Utah, and its surrounding areas, there's places there that to a degree will and really just could never quite be developed through like man-made societies the way that other parts of the earth could be, just because it's such a desert. And that's a beautiful thing in the ways that we're going there to do what we're doing there. It's amazing. It's just a natural place, you know. The state of Utah too, though, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints headquarters is here in the state of Utah. And we're designed in the image of God. We are In The Image Clothing Company. We're specifically geared around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints under In The Image Clothing Company, and have been since the founding, just to be clear. So anyway, the point is what the point is, and the point of this is it's just another date marked documentation. Thank you.